The following program, Normal Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting NORML.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Normal Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Normal. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Normal Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Normal's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Friday, May 28th. We are just about into the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here at Normal Show Live for the next 60 minutes of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, questions, answers, and more by, for, and about the cannabis community. And joining me here in the studio, pushing the buttons and turning the knobs, our own Ganja John.
Hello, Tokers. How are you doing today, Russ?
Oh, I am doing good. And that clip that you played just before we went on the air with the whole Cool Whip thing.
Yeah.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
I got to make a little mention of that because it triggers a childhood memory for me. When I was a kid in 4th grade, there was a contest. I was one of them smart, nerdy kids, right? We had this contest that our teacher put on to come up with the most homonyms as we could, right? Words that are spelled different, but they sound alike, right? So I had, there and all these other homonyms. And I also had wear, like you wear clothes, and where, like where are you, right? And I tied with this other kid, right, to be the one that came up with the most. But my where and where were disqualified by the teacher because she said that where was a different word than where.
That's horrible.
So that's my
whiskey.
Sad. Yeah,
saying what way?
What way? Yes.
What way?
Also joining us in our virtual studio in beautiful Astoria, Oregon, my good friend and half sister, Cannabis Carrie.
Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday.
Oh, we're glad to have you here, Carrie. And I understand your mom is in town.
I know, isn't that sweet? I sure love my mom. She lives, about 12, 13 hours away, so it's really special when she gets to come and stay for a while.
Yeah, that's awfully nice. Now, before we get to the hemp headlines, I do have to break some news that we got in the chat room just before coming on air, and sad news to report that the actor and former California gubernatorial candidate Gary Coleman passed away today of intracranial hemorrhage. He had fallen and hit his head. So in tribute to Gary Coleman, John, we're going to play some video here of Gary Coleman when he was on the Different Strokes television show and met First Lady Nancy Reagan.
Mr. Drummond?
That's right.
I hope I'm not disturbing you. I'm Nancy Reagan.
Yes, you certainly are.
I happen to be here in New York, and I saw that story about you in the paper, Arnold. I'm very concerned about drug abuse, especially among the young, and I was very impressed at the way that you spoke out.
Oh, it's nothing any other fearless journalist dedicated to the truth wouldn't do.
I'm afraid that Arnold's principal believes he's lying.
Yes, so I read.
Arnold doesn't want to snitch on his friends, Mrs. Reagan.
But I think he should. This is important.
Actually, I'm going to go to school with Arnold this morning and see if we can straighten this thing out.
Could I come too?
Well, of course. We'd be honored.
And I'd be relieved.
Has anyone ever tried to sell you children drugs?
Mrs. Reagan, I guess there's something I should say. I've tried drugs a few times.
Thank you. That took as much courage as it did for Arnold to write his story. Surely Robbie isn't alone. Hasn't anybody else done a little experimenting?
Oh, so R.I.P., rest in peace to Gary Coleman, who passed away today, I believe, in Provo, Utah was where he was in the hospital. John has some more of the details.
He had a kidney transplant when he was really young, much like I did, and had a second one and became sensitized, which is basically you build up a lot of antibodies. So he was never able to get another kidney transplant. Luckily, Ganja John is 0% sensitized. It's too bad he was on a daily dialysis regimen, I think doing it 6 days a week. So it's just a terrible loss. He came in 8th place when he ran for governor of California out of 132 candidates.
That's right, 8th place to Gary Coleman. Now, we will get you some more hemp headlines today right after our first break. Carrie brings us the hemp headlines. There's a whole bunch today, Carrie, isn't it? Pretty much just the review section for today.
Yeah, well, we do a lot on Fridays. Usually it's just some updates, but I think out of all my stories today, I only have one update, and that is we're going to update that horrifying situation down in Jamaica. We're also going to look at the opponents of the California legalization movement. Who are they? And we have a couple of stories. We're going to cover the Zach Randolph story that's making tons of headlines this week. Some medical marijuana workers are organizing, and it's a great day in the state of Illinois. We're going to cover that as well.
All right, all that and more coming up here right after the first break, including our 20 after break Rockin' Friday Daily Toker tune from our editor Eric Smokesbud in Madison, Wisconsin, bringing us a tune called Free Mark Emery by the Ground Luminosity. So this will be a great tune. And of course, at half past, our Cultivator's Corner with Danny Danko and special guest Jorge Cervantes will join us to answer your live grow questions in the chat. Right back after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Hello, I'm Radical Russ Belville, Outreach Coordinator for NORML and host of NORML Show Live. Medical marijuana is legal in 14 states today, and I encourage you to visit marijuanadoctors.com to find a physician to help you obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in your state. In most medical marijuana states, patients qualify with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis, and other conditions which vary by state. Learn which conditions are covered in your state at marijuanadoctors.com. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, marijuanadoctors.com will help you find a physician online or by phone to obtain a permit for medical marijuana. Marijuanadoctors.com is fully transparent and HIPAA compliant. Call 866-996-9333 today or visit marijuanadoctors.com. That's 866-996-9333 by phone or online at marijuanadoctors.com.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
The California legalization movement is heating up and will be a roaring fire by the time residents will actually get to mark their ballots. We are already seeing law enforcement lining up and organizing against the measure. Anti-drug groups are spending money on websites and ads. And now a surprising critic has put his money into a campaign against legalization. The owner of a Sacramento medical marijuana clinic, ironically called Unity, has hired a PR firm to campaign against the California Voter Initiative to end the criminal hunt for cannabis consumers. Don Johnson, the owner of Unity, says that he will vote no, and he urges his fellow Californians to vote no as well for legalizing cannabis in California. He claims that since the state government is having such a hard time regulating the medical marijuana industry, that it would be too burdensome to regulate legalization. He feels that if California votes to legalize, it will cause chaos in the state. Johnson says that he doesn't want his hometown of Sacramento to become like Los Angeles, which has been overwhelmed by the rampant proliferation of medical marijuana operations. Pointing out that he sells marijuana that is cultivated by its members, and unlike other dispensaries, he scrupulously follows the state guidelines. After only owning the dispensary for a little more than a year, Johnson tells the Sacramento Press that he would like the city to enforce the moratorium that it passed last summer that would prohibit the establishment of new dispensaries and outlaw the expansion and relocation of existing ones. Johnson said dispensaries have swarmed into Sacramento due to the prospect of the cap, and it has spurred a race among dispensaries to set up shop and make as much money as possible before being shut down, and that they just aren't following the rules. He also says competitors who don't play by the rules have affected his bottom line because he can't compete with operations that cut corners. Plus, they add more risk to the industry, leading to higher insurance rates, rents, and workers' compensation. So, Russ, I guess that old argument against legalization, we don't want it to turn into California. We've heard that many times. I never thought that we would hear it from a Californian.
I know, it's really sad. You'd think that Don Johnson, after all those years on Nash Bridges with Cheech Marin, would have a better attitude toward marijuana. Yeah, couldn't help myself. Wrong day to not wear the Miami Vice colors, huh?
Yeah, he had it all set up yesterday.
Well,
great.
No, this, of course, different Don Johnson. But, yeah, so I guess so that Don Johnson can stay in business, that we should continue to lock people up for marijuana use. We should continue to lock up people that grow a plant in their home that might be in competition with Don Johnson. You know, for the longest time, I said, you know, I wanted the dispensary owners to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to passing legalization. They always said, let the patients come first. You know, once the patients are taken care of, then we can talk about legalization. Well, now we're talking about legalization, and we got a dispensary owner spending his money to fight legalization. We got people that brought us Prop 215, putting flyers on cars at hemp expos, telling them to not vote for legalization. It's abominable.
And we brought you a story this week about a standoff on the island of Jamaica due to the United States' attempt to extradite a suspected drug king, Christopher Koch. He was charged last year with conspiracy to distribute marijuana, cocaine, and conspiracy to traffic firearms in a U.S. federal court. Last weekend, the town of Kingston was under siege from gang members who had blocked off large parts of the city roads with stolen vehicles, barbed wire, and gates. The DEA has been targeting Koch, allegedly that he sells marijuana and crack cocaine in the New York area and then sends the proceeds back to his Jamaican gang. On Thursday, Jamaican security forces kicked down doors and arrested hundreds of people in connection with 4 days of fighting and searching for the fugitive. The deputy police chief of Kingston has said that they found the drug king's offices in the heart of the Tivoli Gardens slum area of the city, but Koch was nowhere to be found. The shootings this week terrorized the residents of Tivoli Gardens, where residents huddled with their children inside bullet-pocked apartment buildings. The death toll has reached 73 confirmed dead, 3 of them security officers. Koch and his allies have had 9 months to prepare for an escape, while Jamaica's prime minister wavered over U.S. demands for his extradition. Prime Minister Bruce Golding won the elected official with Koch's help, and in an AP report, you could clearly see aged graffiti in the background of a Tivoli fence saying, "Vote for Bruce and the JLP, the Jamaican Labour Party." Police rarely, if ever, patrol inside Tivoli Garden slums. The last time they attempted to assert control inside the garden was in 2001, and clashes between gunmen and security forces killed 25 civilians then, a soldier and a constable. On Thursday, sporadic gunfire could still be heard in the neighboring slum of Denham Town, where some streets remain barricaded by local gang members. The director of Jamaica's Red Cross, Jaslyn Salmon, said he was trying to get access to Denham Town and said that the death toll would almost certainly go up once he did. He said that they've been told that there are many bodies in there. More than 500 people have been arrested in connection with the 4 days of fighting. Police who have been searching for weapons have only found 6, along with 7,000 rounds of ammunition and some improvised explosives. The 41-year-old Koch, also known as General and President, allegedly relied on a band of gunmen to keep control of Tivoli Gardens. He solidified his authority by dispensing charity and street justice in an area with little government presence. The U.S. government is demanding that Jamaican authorities find and extradite Koch, and the U.S. has also issued a travel warning for the island.
Oh, it's a sad update, Carrie. Thanks for keeping us on top of what's going on there in Jamaica. In other news from Jamaica, the hunt for the maker of Red Stripe beer and the people who distribute Jamaican rum Well, there isn't a hunt for the people who make Red Stripe beer or Jamaican rum, and there is no violence going on because of Red Stripe beer and Jamaican rum, just to keep you updated.
Former Portland Trailblazer and NBA basketball player and current Indiana Grizzlies forward Zach Randolph has had a pretty tough week. A longtime friend of his, Arthur Boyd, is facing drug charges after Indianapolis police found a cooler containing marijuana in a vehicle that he was driving, but belonged to Randolph, although Randolph wasn't in the vehicle at the time. Rumors this week have been circulating that Randolph is a big player in the Indianapolis marijuana black market, and a probable cause affidavit filed in Marion County Superior Court has named Zach Randolph as a financier for known drug dealers. Police have impounded 4 cars owned by Randolph, including the one Boyd was driving before his May 11th arrest, and 3 others that officers found in Randolph's rented storage locker while executing a search warrant. Randolph has not been arrested and adamantly denies any involvement with drug activity. His lawyers say that the informants who have been feeding the police their information are notorious liars. The Grizzlies organization said in a statement last night that the organization was backing its all-star forward for now.
Well, you know, Zach Randolph was here in Portland during what we call the Jail Blazers era, when there was all these different problems with, you know, dog fighting and I believe Zach was caught for underage drinking, wasn't it, back then?
You know, I don't know, but what I wanted to say was when I was in the hospital at Dornbecker's up at OHSU, when I first got diagnosed with kidney failure, you know, 16, 17, somewhere around there, Zach Randolph came and visited me, and he didn't give me any weed then. I wish he had, but, you know, he really did visit me. Nice guy, but didn't seem like a weed dealer.
Well, you know, what always comes down to me, what it comes down to me in these stories, these NBA weed stories, is not the weed, not the use of marijuana by NBA players. No kidding. Duh, really.
Yeah.
It's the stupidity that's involved. It's like, if you got a multi-million-dollar contract, you've been in trouble before for marijuana, you know, lay back on the financing and the hanging around with people that have tons and tons. Even if he wasn't involved in
or letting them borrow your truck, whatever.
Even if this wasn't, you know, if it's totally made up by the cops, you know, try to keep some extra distance, Zach, right? You know, stay away from the people that are going to get you in trouble.
And workers at 3 medical marijuana businesses in Oakland announced today that they have unionized, another step aimed at bringing legitimacy to a once hidden sector of the state's economy and boosting the marijuana legalization initiative. Union representatives and the business owners believe it's the first time that workers in the nation's growing medical marijuana industry have joined a union. According to Dan Rush, who oversees special operations for the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 5, says that they want the community to understand that they are decent, hardworking people. So far, there are about 100 new members, but Rush believes the potential for new jobs and union members is enormous.
Well, this is wonderful to hear, and this is what we want to see is as marijuana becomes more mainstream and becomes an above-ground market, we're going to see these things of unionization of workers and all the other regulations and traditions that are followed by everybody else in this country who works a legitimate job. That's what a lot of the people, I think, in California that oppose legalization are really afraid of, is not the competition, it's not the excuses they give you, it's that they'll have to, you know, follow the rules and fill out paperwork and be subject to taxes and regulation and buying insurance and all the other things, the licensing, everything else that the rest of us have to go through. So good for them for unionizing, and I would call on the trimmers up in Northern California and everybody involved with the marijuana movement to think about unionization.
And today could be the day in Illinois where the state legislature is slated to vote on a bill that would legalize medical marijuana. The bill cites medical research that shows marijuana effectively treats pain, nausea, and other debilitating medical conditions, and it would allow people to legally possess marijuana if their physicians recommend it. If passed, medical marijuana users would have a level of protection because states are not required to arrest or prosecute people for violating federal laws, according to the language in the bill. The bill is meant as a pilot program, and it will automatically repeal itself 3 years after it comes into effect. The bill allows home cultivation of up to 6 plants, and if passed today by the legislature, Governor Pat Quinn must sign the bill before it becomes law, but he has said publicly that he supports decriminalization efforts and also that Illinois patients deserve access to all medical treatments that will help them.
All right, looking at my clock here, it's 1:19 Pacific time. Must mean it'd be about 3:19 Illinois time. So we should have some news any time on this. Carrie, do you have any way of keeping on top of this and making sure we get some news if it breaks late today?
I certainly will check it before the end of the show.
All right. So good news there in Illinois, because they were worried about this not making it to the end of the session. And of course, like Carrie said, it just made it, and it'll be on its way to the governor's desk. Whether the governor will get around to it right today or save this for another day, it's hard to tell, but we will stay with you here at Normal Show Live. Those of you who hang out for the replays, listen in. If we get breaking news on it, I'll break in with the microphone and tell you all about it. And I think that's reason to celebrate. It's 20 after the hour. We got a 4-day weekend coming up, and John tells me it's Big Bong Day here. Get a look at Big Bong.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Law420.com.
Hello, I'm Russ Belville, Outreach Coordinator for NORML. In my job, I read literally hundreds of headlines each month involving nonviolent, productive citizens whose lives are ripped apart by a marijuana or drug arrest. Many citizens could avoid arrest by refusing police searches and remaining silent, but police are well trained to confuse and intimidate. That's why you have a right to speak to an attorney before answering any police questions. I hope you never need to exercise that right, but if you do, make your first call to the law offices of John C. Lucy IV. John Lucy is an accomplished criminal defense attorney with expertise in Oregon's medical marijuana law. John Lucy understands and respects cannabis and drug consumers of all backgrounds. Call John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit in downtown Portland. Address available at law420.com. That's John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit law420.com today.
Normal Show Live reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
All my friends know the low rider.
This is Normal Show Live.
The low rider is a little higher.
It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Our pod-safe music is donated by freedom-loving musicians who support our goal of ending adult marijuana prohibition. Today we take you into the weekend with Rockin' Friday, our segment featuring the best rock, metal, punk, and jam band music. Brought to you by Eric Smokesbud in Madison, Wisconsin. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Normal Show Live, send it to us at stash@normal.org or mail your CD to Normal Outreach, 4110 Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, number 161, Portland, Oregon, 97214. Now, here's some great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
Today's feature is a mix of politics and music from north of the border. I first heard this song at the beginning and end of a video from Jodie Emery when she interviewed her husband from jail, and I knew instantly I must share it with my fellow stashers. The song Free Mark Emery by The Ground Luminosity features a critical message and an entertaining style. Hailing from Roberts Creek, British Columbia, the four-member band is, according to their MySpace page, Roberts Creek premier party band, bringing rootsy and tribal beats mixed with a ska and modern-sounding funk element, bridged by a rock energy that just won't quit. Their influences range from Lead Belly to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, with some Pink Floyd and Barb Marley thrown in. Take that unique sound and add lyrics demanding Mark Emery's freedom, and you've got one hell of a toker tune. Here is Free Mark Emery by The Ground Luminosity.
This I know. He's a peaceful warrior, speaking only the truth, yet cut down by ruthless lies. Free Mark Emery and free ourselves. Free Mark Emery and free ourselves. This I know. He's a political prisoner, taken from his home and cut to the bone in Babylon. This I know. This I know. He's a rainbow warrior, defending the weak and those who can't speak in freedom. Free Mark Emery, free ourselves. Free Mark Emery, free ourselves. Free Mark Emery, free ourselves. Free Mark Emery, and free ourselves. story's not over. Tell me, can you see the light change in the sky? There he goes. There he goes. A hooded lion. The hood will fall, soon stand tall, the lion. The lion walks again. The lion talks again. The shadows and chains dissolved by the rays of Zion. The truth will rise again. Free to choose again. When freedom prevails, empty the jails of Babylon. Free Mark Emery. Free ourselves. Free Mark Emery.
All right, free Mark Emery, absolutely. That's the Ground Luminosity, and big thanks to Eric Smokesbud out there in Madison, Wisconsin, for bringing us our Rockin' Friday tunes.
Twice a day, but I don't care. It's 420 somewhere.
All right, it's time for our normal cannabis community calendar, which you can find at norml.org/calendar. Tomorrow, Saturday, May 29th, Kansas City NORML is having their public meeting at the Westport Coffee House. This is in Kansas City, Missouri, of course. Check out kcnormal.org or call 888-KC-NORML for more information. And in Michigan, Antrim and Kalkaska County is having a meeting at Helena Township Library in Alden, Michigan. For more information, check out minormal.org and their list of county subchapters. On Sunday, May 30th, the 2010 Riverside Music Jam is taking place in Joplin, Missouri. Joplin NORML will be tabling there, and you can get information at joplin-normal.org. The jam features Cinna the Poet, the Ben Miller Band, and Jailhouse at McClelland Park Boulevard in Joplin, Missouri. And NORML Louisiana is having their online chat meeting Sunday, May 30th. From your computer, check out normallouisiana.org for more information. Monday, May 31st is Memorial Day. Check out our NORML Show live broadcast on Monday. I will be giving you the stories of four people who have lost their lives in this war on drugs, including Rachel Hoffman, Tim Guerin, and others. So tune in on Memorial Day for that event. And for more information on all of the events taking place on our NORML Cannabis Community Calendar, check out norml.org/calendar.
If I were to tell you that in America, right now, over 1 million children sell marijuana, what would you think? Would you think that any public policy that creates over 1 million teenage marijuana dealers needs to be re-examined and possibly amended? You would not be alone. The members of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, aka NORML, have been working since 1970 to reform marijuana laws such that responsible adults, not children, sell and use marijuana. Isn't it high time to reform America's misguided marijuana laws? This is Alan St. Pierre, Executive Director of NORML in Washington, D.C. Only concerned citizens can effectively end the federal government's nearly 70-year-old prohibition on responsible adult marijuana sales and use. Want to know more about how you can help? Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's popular and informative webpage at NORML, NORML.org.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Quite contrary. How does her garden grow? Don't ask me. I'm just the voiceover guy. Ask High Times Senior Cultivation Editor Danny Danko in our NORML Show Live's Cultivator's Corner.
I want to tell you all a little bit about a plant I know.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 32 after the hour. We've got a special Cultivator's Corner today with not only new father Danny Danko, but also joining us Jorge Cervantes, the longtime cultivation editor at High Times. Gentlemen, both of you, welcome to the show.
We don't have them yet, Russ.
Oh, we do not?
No.
Oh, we're having to stall now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Such a great intro, too. We are taking your live chat questions. Oh, sounds like we're getting them there. Okay. All right. 1 second. We'll get the volume up there. Okay. So again, welcoming to the show, Danny Danko and Jorge Cervantes. Hello, gentlemen.
I think that would be the hold music.
That's the hold music at High Times, I believe. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for them, let me tell you a little bit about the Medical Cannabis Cup. This is the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup that's taking place on June 19th and 20th. We'll be there with NORML Show Live, and Danny Danko will be there among many people. Jorge Cervantes will be one of the judges. And now I think we've got him on the air. So Danny and Jorge, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, and let us congratulate you for becoming a new father, Danny.
Oh, thank you so much. Everybody's been saying Daddy Danko.
I thought you'd be the proud father of Dinky Danko.
Yeah, my breeding experiment is complete. I crossed myself with my wife for a new hybrid.
That's very, very good. And we've also got Jorge Cervantes. Jorge, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Jorge is here. He's we're sharing a phone, but he's here. Jorge? Yeah. Yeah, he's here. He's playing with an iPad right now.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, we'll start off with you, Danny. I was starting to tell people a little bit about the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup that's taking place June 19th and 20th. It's in San Francisco, and we'll be there with NORML Show Live. Can you give folks more information about the event?
Yeah, it's at a place called Terra, and it's going to be a 2-day event. We've got vendors, we've got musical stuff, we've got seminars from myself and my colleague Nico Escondido and Mr. Jorge Cervantes as well. We've got just all kinds of stuff, a Prop 215 area outside. friendly area, and just tons of vendors, tons of booths, and it's going to be a really good time. I also would advise people, like, it's selling out quick. If you're really interested in going, I'd get your tickets as fast as possible and book it, because it's going to be a pretty wild scene. If you don't have tickets and you're trying to get in at the front, I think you might be out of luck. But
how many people?
I think it holds about, Jorge just asked me how many people. I think it holds about 2,000 people over the course of the 2 days. We could get much more than that, but I don't know how many fit into the seminar rooms and where we're going to be and all that. But I would just say book it. If you think you're on the list, book it anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Danny, this is going to be my first trip out of the Pacific Northwest in 2 years because of being on dialysis and stuff. And San Francisco's close enough to the point where I can go down there. So I'm really excited to meet you guys. And we need more tickets, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great time. Definitely, email me on the tickets and we'll work something out. We're going to be there testing some of the medicinal strains beforehand, and it's going to be a pretty interesting event. I know BC Northern Lights is throwing an after party on Saturday night as well called Epic Days, so I definitely want to plug that as well. That's going to be real fun. Lyrics Born is performing, and I think Queens of the Stone Age, and Ross MG, who's the DJ from Sublime. So that's going to be pretty exciting as well.
Okay, and there's a website, of course, people can get to get information.
Yeah, medcancup.com, right, Craig? Yeah, medcancup.com is the website. Check it out. It's going to be a really interesting event. Our first real Cannabis Cup stateside, the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. So we're really excited about it.
Okay, and I understand that the judging for this one's a little bit different than what we would talk about at the Cannabis Cups in Amsterdam, in that you can't apply to be a judge. So as far as the judging goes, I understand Jorge is one of the judges in this competition. Who are some of the others?
Yeah, Jorge, I believe Valerie Corral, myself, and Nico. I know that they have a list of people that have been invited as a sort of a panel to judge the various things, and different people are focusing on specific things like sativa or indica or hash or pot food. So there's all different panels for the different strains, and with a few days beforehand to really kind of make up their minds, because we're expecting a lot of entries, 30 to 40 per category. Wow. At least. So
it's going to be amazing. We'll be down there June 19th and 20th with NORML Show Live, bringing you a lot of the festivities. So check us out here on the web. Follow me on Twitter at Radical Russ. Follow Danny at Danny Danko. And we want to get into some of the questions here, because the people in the chat room are really excited. I mean, they're always excited to talk to you, Danny, and to get the bonus of having Jorge's expertise as well. They're just thrilled. So are you guys ready?
Yeah, well, let's get him on here. He's got some stuff he's been working on as well, so hold on, let me grab him for you. Hey, Russ, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jorge. It's great to speak with you again, and Danny said you had some things you were working on you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yesterday I was just at the BEA, which is the National Book Show in the United States. And this is the first time that they let me sign autographs.
Yeah.
Because normally I get bumped, they just don't let me in. But things seem to have changed this year, and they let me in, and I'm very pleased to say that I signed 120 autograph books in an hour.
Wow.
And that's about as fast as you can do it. And, yeah, didn't have to turn anybody away. I talked to them later. But that doesn't count in the hour. But, yeah, so that was fun. And let's see, the weekend before, I guess it was, I went to Denver, and there's a lot happening in Denver. I went to a couple of places, in Colorado Springs, and then in Fort Collins. And gosh, there's a lot of new growers out there. It's really pretty inspiring. And I signed books, of course, and did all of that stuff and signed lots of them. But the main thing is to see Colorado rocking and rolling. That's cool.
Well, it's changed immensely. Even just from, the weekend before the Medical Cannabis Cup is the Aspen Legal Seminar, June 10th through 12th, and it's selling out as well. The last time we were up in Aspen, we had all these dispensary or people who wanted to become cultivators and dispensary owners come to this Aspen Legal Seminar to ask the legal experts on how to get that going. At the time, there was like 30 maybe dispensaries in the Denver area. This year, we're going to go back. There's going to be over 200. So, yeah, it's quite amazing, like you say.
Wow, over 200 now.
Yeah,
that is pretty incredible. Well, but here's the other thing, as far as like a long-term historical thing. I was noticing that there's not, like in California or Oregon or a few other states in America, kind of, if you will, cannabis culture or a pot culture.
Mm-hmm.
And Denver really doesn't have one of those. It's not a big garden state and stuff. So they're seeing a lot of new growers in that state. Some of them are immigrants, but there's a lot of locals as well. So that's pretty exciting. It seems like there's central places that people are starting to flock to.
Yeah.
Strongholds, if you will.
Yeah, definitely in some of the resort towns like Breckenridge, and there's a couple others in Colorado that have voted to just, completely legalize marijuana from an ounce and lower. It's still against state law, but, these cities are starting to see the light. Jorge and Danny, let's get you a chance to get some of these questions because they're just building up and the people in the chat room really want to talk to you guys. I don't know if you want to hand the phone to Danny or...
Okay, sure. Here's Danny. Just a second. Yeah. Okay, go. Hello?
Yeah, Danny, just thought we'd get you back on the line. We'd start off with some of the chat room questions, and then if you wanted to bring Jorge on the answers, that'd be fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll start up all the way back at the top hill. NorCal Perp has the question, Danny or Jorge, if cloning into rapid rooter plugs, should I pre-treat them in any way before putting my cuttings in place?
Rapid rooter plugs are typically pre-treated. I think you really just have to soak them for a while. I'd say, just wet them with plain water or really mild solution, maybe 10% nutrient solution. And you want to, with clones, it's a little weird. You want to use a flowering solution, oddly enough, because you wouldn't think so. You'd think that they'd want nitrogen and vegetating kind of nutrients, but they actually do better with a little higher on the the phosphorus and potassium kind of thing. So, and low nitrogen for the first process of rooting. So I would just soak them in really mild flowering solution, maybe overnight before I put the cuttings in. And then once you put the cuttings in, you just leave them alone. As long as you have moisture and heat, without too much moisture, you're going to have roots pop out and you'll be ready to grow.
All right. By the way, the little kabloop sound that you hear in the background, that's the Skype every time Carrie pastes in a question. So you know that we're getting a lot of questions coming in here.
We've got the master. We've got the master here, Jorge. He's a mentor and a friend and, someone I've been appreciating for a long time. He taught me a ton. And so for us to be helping teach others and he just agreed to write the foreword for my strain book, which is just incredible news for me. And we're excited. And we've just been talking over lunch about just how many things are changing so quickly lately for our cause. And there's really no turning back. We just need more and more momentum. We need more people to push forward and more people to come out of the cannabis closet or what have you and just teach people and change the way the whole thing is looked at,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's happening, with your help and with his books and with, my column and all the things that are happening, it's not one person or one organization, but it's just the momentum that we have is incredible.
Yeah, it's a tidal wave.
It's been a while since. Yeah.
I was going to say, I like to think of it as a tidal wave that's, building in the Pacific, on the West Coast, and it's just going to sweep over the entire country. And, by the way, folks, we're here with Danny Danko and Jorge Cervantes at the High Times office, and we're going to go long today if it's good with you guys. We'll go long and get as many questions in as we can.
Let's go long.
We're going long. We're doing it
longer
live.
Longer flowering times are sometimes, the better plants. That's what growers need to realize as well, is like you don't always want the shortest flowering plant. Let's go the extra 2-3 weeks and really let it mature, get a nice sativa dominant plant, and you'll benefit also from a lot of the cerebral effects.
All right. Question here from someone who wants to remain anonymous. Are there any seed companies you could recommend that are discreet and actually deliver on what's advertised?
Seed companies we can recommend that are discreet and deliver as advertised. Well, anytime you're dealing with any seed company, you're talking about a gray area legally, and what they're doing is they're taking a huge risk. They're getting money for the seeds, and occasionally the seeds don't make it through. Occasionally you'll get a letter in the mail that says, trafficking in seeds is illegal. That's pretty much as far as it goes for the end user. But the guys at the seed banks, they're really taking a tremendous risk to spread these genetics around the world. So, I know they get a lot of guff online. They get a lot of people, and there are fly-by-night companies out there. I'm not going to recommend one in particular, but I will say that I have written the Seed Bank Hall of Fame. I've got 20 companies in that. That's online. You can check that out for free on our website at hightimes.com. Those are all reliable. Those are not fly-by-night companies. They've been around for years. A lot of companies now in the UK and Canada, a lot of these companies have been around for years. Do a little research. Figure out which companies have been around, which ones have the least amount of, negative publicity, and those are the ones to stick with for the most part. Jorge's written a lot about seed banks. You know what? You can just go to hightimes.com/seeds, and we have all our recommendations there.
There we go.
For the companies that we really think have been around for years. They've been breeding. They're not just pollen chuckers. They're not like, closet hacks just throwing male pollen at female flowers and just making seeds. They're, selecting from the best males, selecting from the best females, growing those seeds out as F1s, and then selecting from that and using those progeny and really using the, Mendel's pea pods and all those theories as far as how to get the best traits. And we were just also talking about with George about a lot of the clone trading. A lot of these diseases like powdery mildew and the pythium and stuff, and even insects like spider mice and thrips. A lot of these things are passed around on clones, and people need to understand. It's really great to grow from clones, but every once in a while you have to pop some seeds and really find out what's out there in the ether genetically, because there's other things out there. There's unique strains. And you don't find those strains by always growing from clones. You find them by popping seeds. And we wanted to remind people of that as well. And it fights diseases, because when you're growing from a bunch of clones, all those clones are susceptible to the same diseases, the same pests, and you're limiting. You're subjecting yourself to a blight. Sometimes, and it's a good idea to diversify your genetics.
Yeah, and that's not that's not just for cannabis plants. We see that in agriculture as well. There's a great PBS documentary.
Potatoes,
right?
With wine. With the wine grapes. A lot of those clone-only wine strains, they just get devastated by certain diseases because they're all the same, and so they're all susceptible to the same thing. And the whole idea of heirloom vegetables and heirloom varieties it's the same with cannabis. We gotta really always be searching for what's new out there, because there's unique things always within the genetic stew.
All right. We got another question here from another anonymous poster who wants to know, how well do active carbon filters actually work? Enough to not smell a few plants as soon as you walk in the house?
There's varying sizes of active carbon filters, and it's really about the fan strength and the size of the filter. The bigger the room that you're filtering, the bigger the fan it's going to have to be, the more cubic feet per minute it's going to have to move through the filter. But, the can filter style charcoal filters are really incredible for grow rooms, and even for places where you want to smoke and you don't necessarily want the smoke to permeate out. They create their own negative pressure, and if you can blow the vented air outside, you're actually creating negative pressure so that the smell is not going to permeate out from the room. Another interesting thing we found, we put in the Stash Awards this year, was the mufflers that they put on top of the fans and the filters, because a lot of the times these things are really loud. They sound like airplanes or helicopters, in your house, it doesn't always add to your security or discreetness. So these new mufflers they're cheap, and they're basically just like a motorcycle muffler or a car muffler, but they fit on top of the can filters, and you can hear yourself think in the room.
Fantastic. Okay. Now this next question, I think this next question is worth about 187 points in Scrabble, because it's got some words I don't even know what they mean. So I'm just going to read it to you as best I can. Okay.
No. Stump the Grow Guys.
Yeah, Stump the Grow Guys. Does World Phyllotaxy have a direct effect on potency or generational plant vigor? World Phyllotaxy.
World Phyllotaxy.
Phyllo.
They got me. Hold on. Jorge, do you know what are you familiar with Hold Phyllotaxy?
What the hell is that?
He said, what the hell is that?
Yeah, let me spell it out for you. It's World, WHORLED, World, like you'd whirl something around, and then Phyllotaxy.
WHORLED.
And then Phyllotaxy is PHYLLOTXY.
Phyllotaxy.
World sounds like a country or
I'll look it up here on Google here.
We're stumped. I'm going to have to Google that and get back to you.
Let's see. Define phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy in botany. A phyllotaxy is the arrangement of leaves on the stem of a plant. So does a world arrangement of leaves...
So world leaves...
have a direct effect on potency or generational plant vigor?
For me, that type of leaf twisting has always seemed like some kind of a genetic thing that doesn't really have any effect on potency, because I've seen really, really potent plants that have exhibited those type of symptoms and have been none the worse for it. Let me see what Jorge thinks. You know, when the leaves twist, that's what world phyllotaxy. It's like if leaves are twisting. So does that have an effect on potency?
I think it's going to be a weaker plant in general.
Right.
What happens?
Tougher to clone, a weaker plant in general, but potency level.
What happens to those sativas?
Right.
Sativas that can't take much fertilizer at all.
Right.
And they're slow growing. If it gets real bad, it can slow. I'd say if it gets real bad, it can slow down the growth of a plant. But usually, you just lay back on the fertilizer, and it won't do much. There's other ways that it can get that too. It's usually from stress. Light stress is where I've seen it, and the leaves whirl.
Right.
Basically, if you've got that, less fertilizer.
Yeah, so he's saying a lot of times it's over-fertilized sativas will exhibit that.
Wow, all right. That's fantastic. Thank you, Jorge. And not only do we learn a little bit about cultivation, we got a great new word for Scrabble, phyllotaxy.
Yeah. I don't know if there's even that many little.
Well, no. If someone put the word tax down, you could put phyllo and y on the end of it, and there you get 7 more letters.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to use that.
That's a big point.
I hope Carrie's listening. I'm using that in our next Scrabble war. All right. Another question coming up here from the NorCal Kid wants to know: can you just talk a little bit about your opinion on auto-flowering strains?
Auto-flowering strains. That's another thing we were talking about. Actually, Jorge was telling me in Spain they have feminized auto-flowering plants. So you just plant the seeds, and 70 days later you come back. You've got a meter-tall plant, 40 or 50 grams. So they're growing that stuff, and they're out there. They're getting them more and more potent. And I asked them, do they get you high? And they do. Hold on. Let's put Jorge on about that, because he knows a lot about this subject.
About these auto-flowering feminized plants. They're very big in Europe now. Last year they were the biggest selling seeds there were, and the thing is, they make the plant grows 70 days from seed, and it grows 1 meter tall, which is about 40 inches, and it produces 50 grams of dried cannabis, and that 50 grams is just a little bit less than 2 ounces. So it's a real viable plant now, and I've watched it develop for a lot of years, and finally it's working. There's still, it's still feminized, and it's still not quite as, they haven't brought out all the genetics and everything, but they've certainly overcome the auto-flowering and the feminized part. And like I say, they're not quite as potent or with as much strength, with the volatile oils, but they're still very, very good, and they fulfill a big need for a lot of people.
All right. Well, thank you, Jorge, for that. That's a fantastic answer.
Sure.
We'll move on to the next question here. I'm going to get someone who hasn't gotten a question in yet. Apparatus Beats wants to know if you guys have heard of Veganics, the vegan organic food. What are your thoughts about that? And have you seen any plants using that type of organic food? I guess organic plant food is what they're talking about.
Vegan organics, I don't know. Let's see, I suppose you could have bats that don't eat bugs, would make non-vegan bat guano. But no, I haven't heard of it. See, I just come back from Spain a few months ago, and so I'm not up on all the things here. I know a few things about Europe, but not, because I've lived there for the last 7 years.
Okay.
But I have a few months here. I could pass the phone to Danny. Maybe he's heard of this Veganics. Yeah. Here he is. He's heard of it.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
Veganics is, that's what Cushman, our other colleague, Kyle Cushman, has been pushing this. And he's going to make an appearance as well, I believe, at my seminar in San Francisco. If I can help it, he's going to definitely do a few minutes on his Veganics, which is basically growing without bone meal or blood meal, using mostly just compost teas and beneficial microbes.
Sure. Now, have you seen any plants that have been grown with the Veganics?
Oh, absolutely. We've featured them in High Times as well. I mean, what happens, a lot of the fall colors tend to come out as, like reds and purples and all these colors because, there's also the last 2 weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks is all flushed with plain water, which you should always do, no matter whether it's organic, veganic, hydroponic, whatever. Last week or two, flush with plain water, and just, that's going to help your pot no matter how it's grown.
Okay. Let me get you to another question here. This one comes, let's see, where did that question go? Oh, here we go. From Rolla J wants to know, someone was saying they pulled 1.5 pounds on 12 plants with 100-watt CFL. What's your take on that?
It sounds like a fish story a little bit because, typically, gram per watt or so is pretty successful. 100-watt CFL pound sounds a little like a lot, but if you veg the plants out for 2 months and grow big monsters, you can get a lot. At 12 plants, it's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
It's possible. I've heard of people being able to pull, decent numbers from fluorescence, but, I recommend typically at least some kind of form of high intensity discharge lighting, metal halide or high pressure sodium lights, really for thick buds.
Right. Okay. I'm going to combine a couple of questions here we got from Destruction and from NorCal Kid. Destruction wanted to know what's the best way to introduce CO2, carbon dioxide, to your indoor garden. And NorCal Kid was wondering about your thoughts on using CO2 enrichment. Are you for it, against it? When should you use it? When should you not use it, etc.?
Well, I would say indoor gardens without a ton of airflow benefit from CO2 because, if plants are moving and there's a lot of air coming in and out, clean air, filtered coming in and filtered going out. But if there's a lot of movement, the CO2 level is going to be okay. If you have a sealed room where the air doesn't move out as often, then CO2 enrichment is massive. I mean, if you can go from typically 300 or 400 parts per million in the air to 1,500 parts per million of CO2, you're going to grow bigger buds. You just have to time it right. The best ways, there's really two ways. One is with a tank and a regulator, and one is with a generator and a regulator. The generator is burning gas, so you have to buy propane tanks to refill it, and you're adding heat to your grow room as well with the burning, because there's several burners that are creating that CO2. The benefits of using the tank are you're cooling the room, but you're also replacing big gas tanks every few months or whatever. So it really depends on your situation. There's other ways to do it as well with beer brewing and sugar and yeast and things, but those are pretty temporary solutions. The generator is really probably the best way to introduce CO2 to a commercial indoor garden. Other than that, like I said, really tremendous airflow can supplement enough, can provide enough CO2 for really good growth. You don't have to supplement indoors with CO2, but it does benefit you if you do.
Okay. More questions coming in here on the chat room, and this one comes from, let's see, where we go. Bonzo420 wants to know, asking a question of Jorge, so I guess we'll get Jorge on the phone. Let's go ahead and switch to Jorge.
Okay. I will. George, he's got a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Is Jorge here?
Yeah, Jorge, we have a question from Bonzo420 who just wanted to know what your opinion was on the new LED lights that are available for grows, if they're good to go or if they're just not quite there yet.
Well, that's a real good question. I've been looking at them, not real hot and heavy, but rather casually, and I just haven't seen personally, because I've got to see things personally. I've certainly read a bit and also seen a lot of photos. But, it's just a little bit early for me to say. I've got to see more success, and to be honest, one of the things I look for is people saying, well, gee, come on over and look at my garden because I've got a great crop here. And I'm just not seeing that yet. Technically, they work all right for vegetative plants, and also clones are okay, but the thing is, with flowering, it looks like the two gardens that I visited, and this has been a couple of years ago, I saw about 60 to 70% of the bud weight. The bud still had all the genetic value and everything. Out of a 90 watts garden in a meter square, and a meter is 40 inches square.
Wow.
So that's what I've seen, and, people have been mixing them and stuff, but more often than not, I've seen hype, and I haven't seen actual, real-life evidence, and so that's what makes me slow down.
Right.
And also, I believe that the technology is going to improve. Now they've got up to 5-watt lamps. And the cross came over to when they could use them for growing was when there was a 1-watt lamp, and then or a 1-watt bulb, and then you put 90 of those, you got 90 watts, and you can vent them and everything. They don't make much heat, but now they've got up to 5 watts, and so things are going to change. But the interesting thing is, once the lamp gets too bright, it turns. They start rating it as a laser, because it's such a small point source of lamp light that it'll burn your eyes. So the 5-watters are already classified as a light laser.
Wow.
So I'm just not quite sure what's going to happen. I'm still on the fence about it. I don't have a good opinion.
Okay.
I'll have a more learned opinion in a few months, but I don't think I'm going to change my position right now, though.
Okay. All right, let's get Danny on the phone for this next question. And
okay.
We've got a few more coming in here. We are running long here on Normal Show Live, speaking with Danny Danko, Senior Cultivation Editor at High Times Magazine, and special guest Jorge Cervantes, of course, the legendary marijuana author and grower who's just back from Spain, as a matter of fact. So we're taking your questions still in the chat room, and with this opportunity, we just had to go long. So, Danny, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Russ.
All right. We have a follow-up question on the whole idea of organic gardening, and this person wants to know that if he wants to keep the garden 100% organic, is there a special type of rooting gel I can use that would be organic?
The best thing you can do is I mean, as far as organics goes, is just not use any rooting gel at all. A lot of cuttings will root. Rooting gel is really just kind of an antifungal that you add. So, do you know organic rooting gels? I mean, you know, most rooting gels, the secret of rooting gel is that they come from the willow plant. Right. So the willow tree, if you take a branch of the willow tree and you basically, take a sprig of it and you soak it in water, it produces exactly the same things that are in the antifungals and the rooting hormones that are in most of the gels and powders and stuff. So if you really want to go organic, just get a piece of willow tree and soak it in water and use that as your rooting hormone. Plants want to root. If you put them in the right situation, the right amount of humidity, the right amount of heat, if you use a heating pad underneath the rooting. A lot of times I see people that are cloning, and their biggest mistake is, they're doing this on a cement floor or a metal rack or something, and it's just too cold for roots to really want to pop out. So, you can invest in just a real cheap plug-in rooting heating pad, and that makes all the difference. And suddenly, all their rooting woes are fixed by just adding heat or adding humidity to their rooting area.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, the willow tree is that's the hidden secret of all rooting hormones and gels. We just revealed the industry's little secret.
Well, that's a great secret to reveal. All right, our next question asks, if you are a new grower, where would you spend your lighting money?
New grower, lighting money. If I was a new grower, I would go with probably a 400 or a 600 watt high pressure sodium or metal halide. A lot of the newer ones have mixed spectrums. The 430 watt is a popular model that I've seen have a lot of success. If you go straight to the 1,000 watt, you're dealing with a lot of heat and issues. If you're a beginner, it's going to be a little tougher on you because you really got to know what to do with all that heat. 400, even the 250 is a really efficient, for a small space, a small closet, really efficient, light to use, and you'll get plenty of bud out of it. I mean, that's the thing with fluorescence. Yes, you're going to save on electricity. LEDs, same thing. You're going to save on the heat and electricity. But those are really lights that are supplemental. If you don't have the initial powerful HID, high intensity discharge light, you're working with something tougher to do. So I would go with HID lighting for now, and if you want to experiment with LEDs and you want to use fluorescence, do that with your clones and your mother plants, or as supplemental to your initial HID.
Okay.
And the compact fluorescents are great too. I mean, if you're in a really small space, try the compact fluorescents. Those are great.
All right. Well, just a couple more questions here because I know it's after 5 now out on the East Coast. I don't want to hold you guys too long on a 4-day weekend.
Oh, no problem, man. Let's go late.
Okay. Well, we're going live. All right. Well, we got this interesting question, and I find it interesting because I knew a grower here in Portland, Oregon, who had a large tortoise. I've told the story before. An 87-year-old tortoise, and he'd followed all around the house and collect its dung for his plants. And so the question here is, can exotic animal dung be good for your plants, or should you just stick to purchase stuff off of expensive grocery store shelves?
If you're going with exotic animal dung, I would compliment Jorge just laughed. No meat eaters. Stick with no meat eaters, and try to compost it somehow. You can add it to your compost pile or however you're. Most people, I live in Brooklyn and I still have a compost tumbler. So, if you've got that going on, you add that to it. The worms or whatever you got in there will love it, and it'll go from hot to mild. With nutrients, you never want to go, adding, alpaca manure right directly to your plants because it's going to run really hot and it's a lot of nitrogen at once, and you're going to burn the tips of the leaves. That's how you know when you've used too much fertilizer, is if the tips of your leaves start looking like they're burnt, then you've over-fertilized, and you really want to just get in there with some plain water and flush out, because you're going to have problems with over-fertilization is a really big issue.
Okay. And, you mentioned burn here, and we had a question that was about light burn. KY Cannabis wanted to know, Kentucky Cannabis, wanted to know, light burn, is there any treatment once the damage is done? Will it affect the yield once it recovers?
I would say that any buds or leaves that have been burned by being too close to the light, those are not going to bounce back. But as long as the plant gets out of the light, out of the burn area of the light, the plant can bounce back and live. But those areas that have been burned are going to stay burned.
Okay, now let's move on here to some more questions. And if you've got a chat question, go ahead and send it in. Carrie is still cutting and pasting, and we're going a little long today. We got a question here, well, it's an anonymous question, asking, do grow mirrors used in greenhouses and for tropical plants, do those work with cannabis? Grow mirrors.
Grow mirrors?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I know we use a lot of reflective material. A lot of times people will use mylar. I usually just recommend painting the walls flat white because a lot of times bugs and stuff can hide behind the mylar. But grow mirrors that are used in regular horticulture. Let me see if Jorge knows about this. Do you know about grow mirrors that are used in like regular grow mirrors? Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Some kind of reflective material.
Or about 70-75% is effective because it's silver in the back.
Mm-hmm.
It has to reflect through glass.
Right.
But if it's a front-faced mirror, fine. But that's my law.
Right.
White it generally gets dirty. That's the big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to use the white.
And bugs can hide behind the mylar too. Sometimes is what I was saying. Like, in the space between the wall and the mylar, they hide back there.
I haven't come across that.
Yeah, we don't know about grow mirrors, but if you're talking about reflective material, flat white paint is probably the easiest way to go. And if it gets dirty or whatever, just
Yeah, I just wallpapered my grow room with mylar. So, either way.
Yeah. I mean, as long as if it's stuck to the wall and there's not a lot of space between the wall and the mylar, then yeah, you're fine. And that is going to reflect a lot more of the light. So lower buds will produce more, and you'll have fewer dark spaces there.
Okay. Well, let's get in one more question here, and then we'll let you go. A nice kind of question to end on, I think, from Bubba 007. Does playing music for your plants make them happier?
Yes. Happier? If plants can be happy, then music makes them happier than they were without the music, I would say.
Is there any...
does playing music for your plants make them happier?
Maybe.
He says maybe. He's hedging his bets. I said yes.
No heavy metal.
More happy than they are in the absence of music.
How about any possible...
He said no heavy metal.
No heavy metal. Okay. Okay, well, we're getting some people in the chat room saying they saw it on Mythbusters as to whether they would play music for plants and if they would grow better. After
you know what it is? If you're playing music for your plants, you're liable to spend more time with your plants, and that's really what's going to make them grow better, is the more amount of time you can spend with them, looking underneath the leaves, looking all around, looking at the plant in the back corner, because that's the one that's going to spread the bugs all around your room. Check out every plant and look under the leaf, and if, the Who Live at Leeds is playing while you're doing it, it's only going to help.
Excellent. Well, again, Danny, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cultivator's Corner, and give our thanks also to Jorge Cervantes for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in San Francisco at the Medical Cannabis Cup, June 19th and 20th.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Russ. And Jorge says hola as well.
Oh, hola. Adios, Jorge. And Danny, thank you so much, and congratulations, Danny Danko, for becoming a new father. You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Good, everybody. Welcome back to the show. And I wanted to take this time to talk just a little bit about something I talked about yesterday. I did a story on the Michigan Medical Marijuana Patients Lounge that got busted. And in that story, I did a rant yesterday called "What's Wrong with Getting Medicated?" And I put medicated into quotation marks, right? And this offended one of our listeners, one of our readers, and in fact, somebody that I work with in NORML. And I'll just read you what he said. He says, "It's a shame that you felt it was necessary to put quotation marks around the word medicated. It's as if we were all sharing a secret that we're really not using cannabis as medicine. We're simply doing what the sheriff accuses of us doing, getting high. What some people don't realize is that cannabis is effective medicine. It's not just about feeling euphoric effects or simply making a patient feel better. It's about genuine relief from symptoms. Truth is, lots of stoners believe medical cannabis is a ruse and feel like medical patients are being given the free pass to the buzz train, and they're bitter because they aren't afforded the same right. Legalization for responsible adult use is an important issue, but it has absolutely nothing to do with medicine. We need to recognize cannabis for what it is first, a medicine. So the potheads can whine about how unjust punishments are for recreational use. They are certainly free to avoid that punishment by simply avoiding cannabis use. Maybe one day you'll realize getting high isn't the reason patients use cannabis, but then lots of you don't believe that, do you? Well, I gotta address that because, first of all, I've been working with medical marijuana patients for the past 5 years. I've sat next to the multiple sclerosis patient who is trembling so bad she can hardly keep her hands still, who smokes a doobie and is then able to control her hands enough to use the art tools that she has to be a graphic designer working with computers. I've sat next to the cancer patients, the 84-year-old woman who comes into the medical marijuana meeting who's never seen a doobie in her life, and we have to help her to understand how she can use this effective medicine. My wife is a patient. My engineer is a patient. I've been around patients a lot. I know exactly why patients are using cannabis. It is a safe and effective medicine. However, it is also something that gets you high. This is one of the things I've got as a problem with medical marijuana as being the sole way by which we reform marijuana laws, is that it puts marijuana into a pigeonhole, into a category that is too small. Yes, absolutely, marijuana is medicine and it helps people out, and you can see the demonstrable effects of it. But as they are using it, they are also experiencing a side effect called euphoria, otherwise known as a high. Now, it might be a small high, it might be a great high, whatever it is, but it's no different than the feeling of euphoria received by a healthy person who uses cannabis for recreational purposes. One of the problems I have with the idea of medical marijuana is it sets this line up that says, okay, if you aren't suffering, you deserve to go to jail, and if you are suffering, you deserve to stay out of jail, and everybody fits along this line somewhere, and we got to decide who's suffering enough to not lock up. Now, this is not to say that we shouldn't support medical marijuana laws and go forward and support patients. Absolutely, we've got to do that. But patients also need to understand that saying things to us like, well, if you don't want to go to jail, just stop smoking pot, is offensive. Who are you to judge that our use of cannabis isn't as important to us in our lives as it is to you in your life? Right? Just because our particular condition didn't land on some list, on some law that the government decided, that means that if I use a plant, I should go to jail? Of course not. Now, some people will say, well, Russ, you got to understand there's a difference. These people need to use medicine. You just want to use medicine. But wait a minute. How do you know that? How have you walked a mile in my shoes? Do you know why I'm using this medicine? Do you have any idea that maybe without cannabis I would be dead from drug overdose or alcoholism by this point in my life? But no, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to some psychiatrist and pay $250 for a 55-minute hour and be prescribed a whole bunch of benzodiazepines so that I can get the same relief in my life for my mental health, for my ability to sleep as I get from cannabis? And you'd say that I'm just wanting to get high because my particular condition of depression or alcoholism or drug abuse or anxiety or insomnia or whatever it is isn't on some government list? The reason this makes me mad, and the reason why so many of us are mad here as cannabis consumers, is because for so long we have seen us nibble away at what we really need to get at. And it's something that Keith Stropp says when he goes out and he does his performances. He says, I smoke pot and I like it a lot. And he says, there's nothing wrong with the adult use of cannabis, period. Regardless of why you're using it, medical, recreational, just for thrills, whatever you might be using it for, there's nothing morally wrong with it. And up to this point, the strategies that we've used have implicitly said that there is something wrong with it. Think about it. The policy of decriminalization says we're not going to lock up people who have personal amounts of cannabis, but if they have more than a personal amount, then we're going to start locking people up. That says cannabis is dangerous. Cannabis is so dangerous that above a certain amount, we got to lock people up. Medical marijuana says that cannabis is dangerous. Cannabis is so dangerous, we got to lock people up unless they're really, really sick. Well, I'm really tired of being told that cannabis is really, really dangerous implicitly in these strategies when we know through science and years of history that cannabis is not dangerous in any meaningful way. And the other thing that's frustrating about this is that it's a civil rights issue. And I get people that snicker at me when I say it this way, that it is a civil rights issue. We are discriminated against as cannabis consumers for a choice we make and a lifestyle we lead. As severely as gay people are discriminated against for however they may choose to live their lives, as severely as religious people are discriminated against for how they live their lives. Yet in America, we have hate crime protections for people who choose to be religious, for people who make the conscious choice to declare themselves Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever it may be. By choosing that mode of thought, they are protected from being discriminated against in this country. But for choosing our mode of thought, that we prefer nature to alcohol, that we prefer nature to pharmaceuticals, for choosing that mode of thought, we don't have the same sort of protections. Now, let me bring this up here. Got an example. We're going to use a little prop today. The other thing that makes me upset about this is that it seems to me in this country, we have an inherent right to get high. The 18th Amendment, when it was brought up in this country of ours, they had to do a constitutional amendment because everybody's understanding of the Constitution was that government had no right to tell people they couldn't drink and get drunk. So we had to pass a constitutional amendment, and then we had to pass a constitutional amendment to get rid of that prohibition. So now, I, as an adult over the age of 21 in the United States, can go to all sorts of places all over this great country, taverns, bars, restaurants, casinos, sports stadiums, and I can imbibe as much alcohol as I like, and it's not against the law. It's against the law if I get in a car, start driving around. It's against the law if I'm out in public and causing a spectacle. But if I just want to sit here and get stinking drunk, no cop is going to break into that door upstairs and rush down these stairs and haul me off in handcuffs. If I had $40 that I went to the ATM and got $20, a couple of 20s, I could have myself some fun with this little thing, this little bag here. It's called Crown Royal, little bag of Crown Royal, right? Let's open this up here. Somebody gave this to me once. I think it might have even been from my wedding, 9 years ago, and I've never used it, never opened it. So Crown Royal, right? Big old bottle of Crown Royal, 750 milliliters of 40 proof Canadian whiskey. That's, 80 proof Canadian whiskey. That's 40% alcohol by volume. Or I could take that $40, give me a bag of weed. That's about $40 bag of weed, depending on where you live. That'd be about worth $40. Now, if I were to take this Crown Royal here, get myself an ounce of it, right here on camera, in front of God and everybody, nobody's going to bat an eye. Right, 1.5 ounces there of 80 proof Canadian whiskey. Completely legal. And if I start to feel a buzz on that, nobody's going to bat an eye. That's going to be perfectly fine. Now, when I calculate blood alcohol levels, I'm a 260-pound guy. So I can actually have a few of these here without really causing any problems, for myself or for anyone else out there. And in fact, I've just consumed 3 shots at 4.5 ounces worth of this 80 proof whiskey. I just did the blood alcohol content calculator here on Google. That says my blood alcohol would only be about 0.03. I could actually get behind the wheel of a car right now, and so as long as I drove, as well as anybody else out there, if I were pulled over, 0.03 would not be enough to convict me of being impaired. But if I were to have a little bit of this and get pulled over in 9 different states in this America, if I smoked this last month and THC metabolites showed up in my blood, I'd be considered an impaired driver. Yet I could keep having shot after shot of this Crown Royal, and nobody would have a problem with that. I could sit here and just get drunk all day. They're not going to have cops bursting in the door. So long as I come to work the next day and get my work done, NORML's not going to fire me. John's not going to have any problems with me so long as I don't get all belligerent and, drunk and angry here.
Beat me again and throw me down the stairs.
So what's that, 5 shots? If I get to the 6, let me just go one more. 6 shots here. We can do this. I'm a big fella. There we go. 6 shots. 40 proof Crown Royal. Now, this Crown Royal, 750 milliliters, works out to 16 2/3 ounces. If I were just to start chugging this thing of Crown Royal right here, chug the whole thing right here on camera, as a 260-pound man, I did the blood alcohol content calculator. It put me at a 0.23. Be pretty stinking drunk at a 0.23. And as I read the results of it, it also says this could cause severe health hazards and possibly death. Here it is, $40 worth of death, that I could just chug this, and it could kill me. And no cop's going to come down the stairs. Nobody's going to burst in my doors. Nobody's going to fire me from my job. Nobody's going to take my kids away. No SWAT team's going to shoot my dog if I just sit here and take this one. The one that we know kills 85,000 people every year just from its toxicity, not even including all of the drunk driving deaths that we have from alcohol and all of the assaults and murders that we have from alcohol. No, just from cirrhosis of the liver and all the other bad things, the cancers and everything that alcohol can cause. That's perfectly okay. I could sit here and chug the whole damn thing. No cop's going to break down my door. This is perfectly legal. This is okay. This could get me years in a penitentiary. This here, this little herb that couldn't kill anybody, that grew out of the ground, that has never killed anyone in 5,000 recorded years of human history. This little herb. This little piece of plant material. Prison time. Prison time for this. Doesn't kill anybody. Not addictive. Not going to have a hangover like I'm going to have tomorrow. I'm not going to feel bad like I'm going to feel in about an hour. Perfectly legal. Oh boy. For everybody here at NORML.org, I'm Radical Russ. A little toasty. And for Ganja John and Cannabis Carrie, have yourself a great 4-day weekend. And remember, Memorial Day, we'll be doing our tribute to those who have lost their lives in the war on drugs. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers. All right, I can't stand it. It's not Crown Royal. It's sweet tea. There's no freaking way I would drink that much Crown Royal. What am I, stupid? I'm a pothead. I'm not an idiot. I don't know how these Southerners drink this sweet tea. This is awful. That's why it's as bad as drinking the Crown Royal.
Yeah, he didn't tell me he was going to do that. So.
We'll see ya next week. Bye.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.